Okay, guys, this is a full-fledged video because I rewatched the Food Theory episode okay, I have some actual advice for you. One, I will mention how to live longer because there are actual, it's not 100%. There's a more likelihood you will live longer if you do this. I'm just saying, but first, I gotta talk about caffeine. Caffeine is actually technically a drug, so don't. But if you're a tea drinker, stick to your tea, and make sure no one's sticking anything in your food that has caffeine, because this was 7 months ago, and they were doing that. Excuse me. FDA needs to actually make this illegal, how much Panera is putting in that. I mean, deadly levels, And also, guys, listen to the FDA saying you should consume this many calories. Because, it actually saves your life. Don't eat a burger, that's a lot of calories. You can still eat meat and vegetables. I'm just saying, there also is a thing in a country where a little blue zone where they live to 100 more likely, where they eat tofu, and also they eat when they're 80. They stop when they're 80% full. Don't make yourself 100%. And I don't know, yoga. I think yoga is a good thing. Always keep working. Have a garden. Have a garden. That also help. Also, portion sizes can help. The 80% thing. Surround yourself by good people. That can help your social thing. Makes it where you live longer. There's a whole thing. Also, sweet potato. I think I said they ate 75% or 70% of it in their diet. So start buying sweet potato, because as human beings we want to make it more common. Yes, I will actually remake this and make it into German and all that, because this is intel you need to know. So we don't die young, we die old. And you can see your great, not a lot of great, but your great grandson or great granddaughter or your great father-in-law if you live long enough. But yeah, there are actual things you can do, have a garden. Actually have a garden. There's people that take a day to worship, like a whole on day. They take the worship. They do a little worship, nature. They go through nature to appreciate what, your belief God made, and just stop fighting on the internet. Also, be happy. Akuma Matata. That could also help you live longer. Not gonna lie. Doesn't mean 100% you're gonna live to 100. Just mean there's a higher chance that you will. If you want a higher chance, then yeah, Kuna Matata. Remember, Kuna Matata. And also, yeah, just breathe. Be careful. Lower your anger. Lower your anger. Also, if you want to know how please look. I'll look this up. But 34 milligrams equals a Diet
Can of
Coke.
Coke, 34 milligrams. Caffeine in a cup of coffee, about 95 to 110 on the high end. Energy drinks, 85 milligrams per serving, but you're looking at least 160 milligrams for the entire can. So what's my...
So basically, the more caffeine you consume, the more dangerous it becomes because you could literally accidentally kill yourself if you ingest too much. If you haven't had soda, energy drinks, or caffeine, don't. Or Panera's lemonade, because I'm not gonna lie, that has a lot, and you have a higher chance to die. Healthy people can die from caffeine if they have like no medical problems. Perfectly fine. If you ingest too much caffeine, you can die.
personal rule of thumb here, double digits of milligrams, pretty average.
That's fine.
100 to 200, it's pretty high. Like, don't be doubling or...
Yeah, I listen to his advice. Don't, if it has this many, like hundreds and hundreds, be specific, like 100 to 200 milligrams. Yeah, don't double. Just stick to that one. And drink like milk or water afterwards. I don't want you guys to die young.
Tripling up on those things. Scientifically, your heart might start getting cranky. 200? 300? Back away slowly, my friends, because we're entering into Panera territory.
Because if you actually look, there's a lot of milligrams of caffeine, but if you just go there, do not buy it. I know Panera's gonna be like, why are you telling them to not buy our, like, lemonade? But I'm doing it so you guys don't literally have a chance of death. This has a lot, like MatPat literally just said, we're getting to the Panera-tory.
Panera-tory. And the next time you see some sneaky caffeine working its way into a food product without anyone's knowledge, go ahead, make a car rant video. You'll be doing us all a public service. But hey, that's...
And I know we're kind of lazy, but please look it up before you ingest it, because if you don't, that could be a mistake. I'm gonna look. You Well, I gotta listen to the TED Talk. This actually will help you. I'm sorry, but this will. So watch it, please. I don't want you guys to die early. Because, know this. We care and love you guys. Because you guys come, like, all of you just come as so nice. Like, one of you has, like, Frisk. Not Frisk. God dang it, I forget the name. He's like child, Toriel's child. Asgore. I don't know. He comments so nice things, and one guy said, I hope you get 2,000. I was just so happy.
Something called the Danish Twin Study
I hope you
established
guys
that only about 10%
have a good...
of how long the average person lives within certain biological limits is dictated by our genes. The other 90% is dictated by our lifestyle. So the premise of Blue Zone is if we can find the optimal lifestyle of longevity, we can come up with a de facto formula for longevity. But if you ask the average American,
share this to your friends and family, and comment, I want you to have a chance to live long. And yeah, there are actual things to make it where you don't suffer from things that old one. They treat, like, grandpas and grandmas with respect. Do that for your own grandma and grandpa. And eat more sweet potato.
What the optimal formula of longevity is, they probably couldn't tell you. They've probably heard of the South Beach diet or the Atkins diet, and you have the USDA food pyramid. There's what Oprah tells us. There's what Dr. Oz tells us.
I'm sorry, but I don't think we should listen to those. You should also just eat 80% food. I don't know how they can tell, but it's a thing.
The fact of the matter is there's a lot of confusion. Should you be running marathons or doing yoga? Should you eat organic meats or should you be eating tofu?
Tofu, I think they actually do eat. They don't eat burgers because.
When it comes to supplements, should you be taking them? How about these hormones or resveratrol? And does Purpose Plan finding longevity was to team up with National
Okay, I don't reading that.
Geographic and the National Institute on Aging to find the 4 demographically confirmed areas that are geographically defined, and then bring a team of experts in there.
Okay, this is the blue zone, so look up how they're living so long and just take their advice. There's an area in Sardinia and I don't know, Costa Rica, Noka Peninsula, Loma Linda, California, Okinawa. That's one that says eat a lot of sweet potato. Also, don't watch videos all day.
Methodically go through exactly
I'm just doing it so America's better.
Distillation. And at the end of this, I'm going to tell you what that distillation is. But first, I'd like to debunk some common myths when it comes to longevity. And the first myth is if you try really hard.
Yeah, this literally doesn't matter. If you try hard, if you do the correct steps, there's a chance. It's not you will, it's a chance.
You can live to be 100. False. The problem is only about 1 out of 5,000 people in America live to be 100. Your chances are very low. Even though it's the fastest growing demographic in America, it's hard to reach 100. The problem is that we are not programmed for longevity. We are programmed for something called procreative success. I love that word.
I think it's basically he's saying we're not supposed to live very long, we're supposed to make babies. We're more meant for making babies. Because that is true, we're meant to spread genes. We're not meant to live long lives like a turtle.
In my college days. Biologists term procreative success to mean the age where you have children and then another generation, the age when your children have children. After that, the effect of evolution completely dissipates. If you're a mammal, if you're a rat or an elephant or a human in between, it's the same story. So to make it to age 100, you not only have to have had a very good lifestyle, you also have to have won the genetic lottery. The second myth is there are treatments that can help slow, reverse, or even stop aging.
Remember, these two are myths. So, I got taught this in class, so it's good.
False. When you think of it, there's 99 things that can age us. Deprive your brain of oxygen for just a few minutes, those brain cells die, they never come back. Play tennis too hard on your knees, ruin your cartilage, that cartilage never comes back. Our arteries can clog, our brains can gunk up with plaque, and we can get Alzheimer's. There's just
never hold your breath, I guess.
Our bodies have 35 trillion cells.
Yeah.
Trillion with the T. We're talking national debt numbers here. Those cells turn themselves over once every 8 years, and every time they turn themselves over, there's some damage. And that damage builds up, and it builds up exponentially. It's a little bit like the days when we all had Beatles albums or Eagles albums, and we make a copy of that on a cassette tape and then let our friends copy that cassette tape, and pretty soon, with successive generations, that tape sounds like garbage. Well, the same things happen to ourselves. That's why a 65-year-old person is aging at a rate of about 125 times faster than a 12-year-old person. So if there's nothing you can do to slow your aging or stop your aging, what am I doing here? Well, the fact of the matter is the best science tells us that the capacity of the human body, my body, your body, is about 90 years, a little bit more for women. But life
Yeah, women
expectancy in
live
this
longer.
country is only 78. So somewhere along the line, we're leaving about 12 good years on the table.
Yeah.
These are years that
There
we could
are
get,
foods
and
that actually make your
research
life
shows
live
that
longer, so eat those
that they would be
foods way
years
more than
largely
you.
free of chronic disease, heart disease, cancer, and
Okay, at least
diabetes.
eat, like, I
We
think
think
once a
the
day.
best way to get these missing
Don't
years
eat.
is to look at the cultures around the world that are actually experiencing them. Areas where people are living to age 100 at rates
Also,
up
go
to 10
to the
times
TED
greater
Talk. I'm just gonna say, watch the TED Talk.
than we are, areas where the life expectancy is an extra dozen years, and the rate of middle-age mortality is a
I'm
fraction
basically
of what it is in this
reviewing
country.
it.
We found our first blue zone about 125 miles off the coast of Italy on the island of Sardinia, and not the entire island. The island's about 1.4 million people, but only up in the highlands, an area called the Nuoro province. And here we have this area where men live the longest, about 10 times more centenarians than we have here in America. And this is a place where people not only reach age 100, they do so with extraordinary vigor. Places where 102-year-olds still ride their bike to work, chop wood, and can beat a guy 60 years younger than them. Their history actually goes back to about the time of Christ. It's actually a Bronze Age culture that's been isolated. Because the land is so infertile, they're largely shepherds, which occasions regular low-intensity physical activity. Their diet is mostly plant-based, accentuated with foods that they can carry into the fields. They came up with an unleavened whole wheat bread called nota musica, made out of durum wheat, a type of cheese made from grass-fed animals, so it's hot.
Yeah, if you're a farmer, feed your cows, I guess, grass.
Uses high in omega-3 fatty acids instead of omega-6 fatty acids from corn-fed animals. And
yeah, ours are corn-fed.
3 times the level of polyphenols than any known wine in the world. It's called Cannonau. But the real secret, I think, lies more in the way that they organize their society. And one of the most salient elements of the Sardinian society is how they treat older people. You ever notice here in America, social equity seems to peak at about age 24? Just look at the advertisement. Here in Sardinia, the older you get, the more equity you have, the more wisdom you're celebrated for. You go into the bars in Sardinia, instead of seeing the Sports Illustrated swimsuit calendar, you see the Centenarian of the Month calendar.
So if you have
this, it turns out, is not only good for your aging parents to keep them close to the family, it imparts about 4 to 6 years of extra life expectancy. Research shows it's also good for the children of those families who have lower rates of mortality and lower rates of disease. That's called the grandmother effect. We found our second blue zone on the other side of the planet, about 800 miles south of Tokyo on the archipelago of Okinawa. Okinawa is actually 161 small islands. And in the northern part of the main island, this is ground zero for world longevity. This is
not a TED Talk.
Where the oldest living female population is found. It's a place where people have the longest disability-free life expectancy in the world. They have what we want. They live a long time and tend to die in their sleep very quickly. And
okay, that sounded morbid, but just try not to get angry that often or sad or scared, and try not to. And yeah, they have less disabilities when they're older because they have a certain lifestyle that, yeah, lessens the chance of it. So there's less disabilities in their communities when they are old.
often I can tell you,
doesn't mean you can't get it. It just means
they live about 7 good years longer than the average American, 5 times as many centenarians as we have in America, 1/5 the rate of colon and breast cancer, big killers here in America, and 1/6 the rate of cardiovascular disease. And the fact that this culture has yielded these numbers suggests strongly they have something to teach us. What do? Once again, a plant-based diet full of vegetables with lots of color in them, and they eat about 8 times as much tofu as Americans do. More significant than what they eat is how they eat it. they have all kinds of little strategies to keep from overeating, which, as you know, is a big problem here in America.
Buy small plates. And remind yourself when you're not like full. Stop when you're 80%. But get small plates. They do this at buffets where they have small plates so you eat less. It's actually a good thing because it helps your life live longer. If
the strategies we observe, they eat off of smaller plates. They tend to eat fewer calories at every sitting. Instead of serving family style where you can sort of mindlessly eat as you're talking, they serve at the counter, put the food away, and then bring it to the table. They also have a 3,000-year-old adage, which I think is the greatest sort of diet.
So if you want your kids to live long, put the food away so they can't just keep grabbing handfuls and making their life live less. So, American moms, I'm helping your kids here. Everyone needs to watch that TED Talk. Because, like, if you follow it, I'm sorry about the chair, but if you follow this, there's a chance you could live a very long life. And our life expectancy is going up over the years. The divorce thing is too, so that sucks. But yeah.
Simply a little saying.
Also, don't go to Japan. I know that sounds racist, don't go to Japan, but if you don't want to see suicide, don't live in Japan. Don't go to North Korea because there's a lot of bad things in North Korea that they do. But yeah, don't go to Japan because you will. If you live there, if you just stick there and live there, you'll see a lot of people kill themselves. I know YouTube ain't gonna like that word, but it's true. They kill themselves a lot of the time. Also, Africa, fun fact, they don't really even know what depression is. So a good place to move is like Africa. But just remember, Kuna Matata. No worries when everyone like makes you mad. Just breathe through your nose, out your mouth, say Kuna Matata. If it's weird for you to say it out loud, then just say it in your head. Kuna Matata. Kuna Matata. Have it in your head. Kuna Matata. Also, have a purpose to wake up in the morning. I know that sounds like I'm being insulting, but that actually helps them live longer. Having a purpose to wake up in the morning. They actually have a reason to wake up. Like, I don't know, think about your dog. Get a dog. And that's why you wake up every morning, to take care of your dog and take it on walks and take care of it. Because you don't want that puppers to be sad.
Your stomach is 20% full. It takes about a half hour for that full feeling to go travel from your belly to your brain. And by remembering to stop at 80%, it helps keep you from doing that very thing. But like Sardinia, Okinawa has a few social constructs that we can associate with longevity. We know that isolation kills. 15 years ago, the average American had 3 good friends. We're down to 1.5 right now. If you were lucky enough to be born in Okinawa, you were born into a system where you automatically have a half a dozen friends with whom you travel through life. They call it a moai. And if you're in a moai, you're expected to share the bounty if you encounter luck. And if things go bad, the child gets sick, the parent dies, you always have somebody who has your back. This particular moai, these 5 ladies have been together for 97 years. Their average age is 102.
Dance more.
Typically in America, we've divided our adult life up into 2 sections.
Don't retire.
Work life, where we're productive, and then one day, boom, we retire. And typically that is meant retiring to the easy chair or going down to Arizona to play golf. In the Okinawan language, there's not even a word for retirement. Instead, there's one word that imbues your entire life, and that word is ikigai. And roughly translated means the reason for which you wake up in the morning. And for this 102-year-old karate master, his ikigai...
I know this sounds stupid, but don't retire. There was an actual guy that didn't retire. I don't know if he actually eventually did, but back then, not really far. But I think in 2020, maybe 2022, or 2021, this guy, it might have been 2019. I don't know. I think it was 2020. He did not retire. He liked his job. He didn't retire, and I didn't hear about the story again.
Carrying forth
I don't know if he retired now, but
this 100-year-old fisherman, it was continuing to catch fish for his family 3 times a week. And this is a question. The National Institute on Aging actually gave us a questionnaire to give these centenarians. And one of the questions, they were very culturally astute people who put the questionnaire. One of the questions was, what is your ikigai? It instantly knew why they woke up in the morning. For this 102-year-old woman, her ikigai was simply her great.
Yeah, the reason you wake up. Pick an ikigai, so a reason you wake up and do it for them. If you have kids, you gotta wake up and be like, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing it for them. I'm doing it for them. Keep saying that in your head if you have kids. I'm waking up for them. I'm just saying.
Granddaughter. 2 girls separated in age by 101 and a half years. And I asked her what it felt like to hold a great-great-great-granddaughter. And she put her head back and she said, it feels like leaping into heaven. I thought that was a wonderful thought. My editor at Geographic wanted me to find America's Blue Zone. And for a while, we looked on the prairies of Minnesota, where actually there's a very high proportion of centenarians. But that's because all the young people left. So we turned to the data again, and we found America's longest lived population among the Seventh-day Adventists concentrated in and around Loma Linda, California. Adventists are conservative Methodists. They celebrate their Sabbath from sunset on Friday till sunset on Saturday, a 24-hour sanctuary in time, they call it. And they follow 5 little habits that conveys to them extraordinary longevity, comparatively speaking. In America here, life expectancy for the average woman is 80, but for an Adventist woman, their life expectancy is 89, and the difference is even more pronounced among men, who are expected to live about 11 years longer than their American counterparts. Now, this is a study that followed about 70,000 people for 30 years, sterling study, and I think it supremely illustrates the premise of this Blue Zone project. This is a heterogeneous community. It's white, black, Hispanic, Asian. The only thing they have in common are a set of very small lifestyle habits that they follow.
Wait.
Ritualistically for most of their lives. They take their diet directly from the Bible, Genesis chapter 1, verse 26, where God talks about legumes and seeds, and on one more stanza about green plants, ostensibly missing his meat. They take this sanctuary and time very serious. For 24 hours every week, no matter how busy they are, how stressed out they are at work, where the kids need to be driven, they stop everything and they focus on their God, their social network, and then hardwired right in the religion are nature walks. And the power of this is not that it's done occasionally. The power is it's done every week for a lifetime. None of it's hard. None of it costs money. Adventists also tend to hang out with other Adventists. So if you go to an Adventist party, you don't see people swilling Jim Beam or rolling a joint. Instead, they're talking about their next nature walk, exchanging recipes, and yes, they pray. But they influence each other in profound and measurable ways. This is a culture that has yielded Ellsworth Wareham. Ellsworth Wareham is 97 years old. He's a multimillionaire. Yet when a contractor wanted $6,000 to build a privacy fence, he said, for that kind of money, I'll do it myself. So for the next 3 days, he was out shoveling cement and hauling poles around. And predictably, perhaps, on the 4th day, he ended up in the operating room. But not as the guy on the table, the guy doing open heart surgery. At 97, he still does 20 open heart surgeries every month. Ed Rawlings, 103 years old now, an active cowboy, starts his morning with the swim, and on the weekends he likes to put on the boards, throw up rooster tails. And then Marge Deton. Marge is 104. Her grandson actually lives in the Twin Cities here. She starts her day with lifting weights. She rides her bicycle. And then she gets in a root beer colored 1994 Cadillac Seville and tears down the San Bernardino Freeway, where she still volunteers for 7 different organizations. I've been on 19 hardcore expeditions. I'm probably the only person you'll ever meet who rode his bicycle across the Sahara Desert without sunscreen. But I'll tell you, there was no adventure more harrowing than riding shotgun with Marge Deton. A stranger is a friend I haven't met yet, she would say to me. So what are the common denominators in these 3 cultures? What are the things that they all do? And we managed to boil it down to 9. In fact, we've done 2 more Blue Zone expeditions since this, and these common denominators hold true. And the first one, and I'm about to utter heresy here, none of them exercise. At least the way we think of exercise. Instead, they set up their lives so that they're constantly nudged into physical activity. These 100-year-old Okinawan women are getting up and down off the ground. They sit on the floor 30 or 40 times a day. The Sardinians live in vertical houses, up and down the stairs. Every trip to the store or to church or to the friend's house occasions a walk. They don't have any conveniences. There's not a button to push to do yard work or housework. If they want to mix up a cake, they're doing it by hand. That's physical activity. That burns calories just as much as going on the treadmill does. When they do intentional physical activity, it's things they enjoy. They tend to walk, the only proven way to stave off cognitive decline, and they all tend to have a garden. They know how to set up their life in the right way so they have the right outlook. Each of these cultures take time to downshift. The Sardinians pray, the Seventh-day Adventists pray, the Okinawans have this ancestor veneration. But when you're in a hurry or stressed out, that triggers something called the inflammatory response, which is associated with everything from Alzheimer's disease to cardiovascular disease. When you slow down for 15 minutes a day, you turn that inflammatory state into a more anti-inflammatory state. They have vocabulary for sense of purpose. Ikigai, like the Okinawans. You know, the 2 most dangerous years in your life are the year you're born because of infant mortality and the year you retire. These people know their sense of purpose and they activate it in their life. That's worth about 7 years of extra life expectancy. There's no longevity diet. Instead, these people drink a little bit every day, not a hard sell to the American population. They tend to eat a plant-based diet. Doesn't mean they don't eat meat, but lots of beans and nuts. And they have strategies to keep from overeating, little things that nudge them away from the table at the right time. And then the foundation of all this is how they connect. They put their families first, take care of their children and their aging parents. They all tend to belong to a faith-based community, which is worth between 4 and 14 extra years of life expectancy if you do it 4 times a month. And the biggest thing here is they also belong to the right tribe. They were either born into or they proactively surrounded themselves with the right people. We know from the Framingham studies that if your 3 best friends are obese, there's a 50% better chance that you'll be overweight. So if you hang out with unhealthy people, that's going to have a measurable impact over time. Instead, if your friend's idea of recreation is physical activity, bowling or playing hockey or biking or gardening, if your friends drink a little but not too much, and they eat right, and they're engaged, and they're trusting and trustworthy, that is going to have the biggest impact over time. Diets don't work. No diet in the history of the world has ever worked for more than 2% of the population. Exercise programs usually start in January. They're usually done by October. When it comes to longevity, there is no short-term fix in a pill or anything else. But when you think about it, your friends are long-term adventures, and therefore perhaps the most significant thing you can do to add more years to your life and life to your years. Thank you very much.